Hello and welcome back to tutorial 128 from Markplex. And if you missed the first tutorial, this tutorial is looking at developing an RSI using a price series provider, and you should probably go back and look at the first video before this one. But in this one, what we're going to be doing is emulating what is done. The first one we created the PSP, incidentally. In the second one, we're going to be trying to emulate. If we look at the RSI function, you'll see that we have this statement here: if current bar is 1, then we need to find the net change average and the total change average. And looks very simple. It is fairly simple actually for regular bars. For a PSP, not quite so simple. So let's just go ahead and look at a technique for doing that. First of all, we're going to need to create a couple of variables. So I've just copied the statement from the RSI function. We're not really going to be able to use it as it is. So what I'm going to do is change the name of these two variables and create variables for them. Just going to copy those though, just to save a little bit of typing. Oh, incidentally, we can remove the TS market data there because we've included the namespace, and I'm going to copy those in there. And what I've called them in this first calculation is net change average and net calc and total change average, and they are going to both be doubles. So with the function, when the function is called by an indicator, for instance, it runs when the current bar is 1, and then it looks back and finds the relevant values for the price a certain number of bars ago. We need to do that differently, and we do that by going back in time in the price series provider that we've already set up. We also only want to do this thing once. So what I've said is if PSP.count is greater or equal to length plus 1, and what length is going to be is another user input. It's going to be the number of bars that we want to calculate the RSI over. So we'll set that to, for example, 5, and incidentally that's going to be an int. Make that an int as well. So let's just go down. If it is greater than length plus 1 and init calc is false, in other words, this is a variable we're going to set, and it is changed to true when we've done the calculations. We need to create another variable, and it's a bool, and it's called initCalc, and originally when we first run the program it is false. Now another thing we need to do is make sure that these are intrabar persist variables. So that's the condition that we run this routine, and we can say begin, and now we need to find the equivalent of the price and then a certain price a certain number of bars back. So what I've done is create a little spreadsheet to try and demonstrate how this is being done. Okay, so the first thing that we're trying to calculate is this next net change average, and that is price minus price so many bars ago divided by length. So on a regular chart, that's going to be current bar is equal to 1, and then we look back. Say, for example, if length is equal to 5. So we've got price, and then we want to subtract the value of price 5 bars ago. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be those prices. Now, the PSP, we can't do that the same way. So let's just assume we've got a length of 5, and let's just assume that the number of bars, the PSP count, is equal to 20. Now, we count from 0, which is important. So from if the count is equal to 20, we want to find the equivalent of the price, this particular price here. Although of course these are PSP bars, but if you just assume that that is the price we want to find, we need to count back from the top. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, that is the number we want. What that is equal to is the PSP.count minus the length minus 1. So that is the first value that we need. So I'm going to put that first part into the calculation. Just need to change these variable names. And the next number that we're trying to find, if we just go back to the spreadsheet, is the price so many bars ago, price length, and that is the equivalent of this bar here. Now again, we can't do it the same with the PSP. What we need to do now is find this value here, and that is equal to the length minus 1. So we can go back to our program, and we need to just change this a little bit. I'm just going to copy it and remove the length like so. So that is equal to PSP close minus 1, and that has to have brackets around it like so, and then it's divided by the length. So that is the first part. Now the second part, in the regular RSI function, we're just finding an average of the abs value of price minus price 1 going back a certain length. That is a little more tricky with the PSP. So let me just show you how we can do that. And let's just go to the spreadsheet to start with. So what we're doing effectively in the regular program is we're looking at this price here minus the previous price minus the one before that, etc., back for 5 bars. So we need to find what the equivalent of that is for the PSP. And so what we do, so we need to go back a counter because we can't use the average. So what we're going to do is going to go counter PSP count minus length to PSP count minus 1. So let's just put this in, and then we can go back and check that it's the right calculation. And let's go to and we're going to do a begin and an end statement. So I'm just going to put that in. In fact, let me just grab this calculation here, and we can talk through it. So begin and end, and calculation is what we're doing is we're going back so many bars and we're summing it each time. So what we're looking for is the abs value of PSP close counter minus 1 to PSP close counter. So let's just look at what the counters are, and I've done this on the spreadsheet. So the PSP count, that we know is 20, and if we take length away from that, which we've set for the sake of this example of 5, we get 15. So we're going from 15 to PSP count 20 to 19, 15 to 19. So we can go back to this. We can see that we're going from 15 here to 19, and then we're looking for the abs count, the abs value PSP close counter minus 1. So counter minus 1 would be a value of 14, and that would then go through to PSP count, or rather PSP close dot counter. So counter minus 1 to counter, and it's a little bit counterintuitive because we're sort of working backwards. But if you actually look at the numbers and compare them with what we're trying to do in the original calculation, you'll see that those figures tot up. And having done the calculation as we have here, what we finally need to do is we need to divide this by length. And then the very final thing we need to do, because we don't want to keep doing this calculation over and over again, is we're going to set init calc to be equal to true, so that we only run this once. And bear in mind, these are intrabar persist variables, so they will retain their values even on a future tick. So let me just try and verify this and see how many errors we've made this time. Okay, counter, we need to create a variable for counter, which is an int. Okay, so let's just try and verify that again. Okay, so that's part 2. We've done the initial current bar equals 1 equivalent calculation, and what we now need to do in the next video, we're going to calculate the PSP for historic bars. In fact, this will work for real-time bars, but we're then going to do in the final video 4, we're going to just look at how we can make this a little more efficient. Okay, thank you very much.